Hey guys, welcome back. Sports with Mano Imano. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Steve,
Hey, happy Labor Day, everybody. Welcome back to the show.
September 2nd, 2019. Summer's drawing to a close, but lots of sports to talk about.
If we find any of our audience members wearing white after Labor Day, I'm going to take issue with that.
Well, that trend seems to be changing a little bit, actually. All the fashion moguls out there.
Fashionistas.
But anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's been a busy time in sports, and let's start off at Major League Baseball because we had a I guess what you would consider, you know, a cap to a great career. Justin Verlander with his third no hitter.
Absolutely. It just happened yesterday. So I woke up this morning and saw that, and you got to tip your hat. You actually mentioned Verlander, I think a week ago, mentioning Cy Young candidacy and how
No
dominant
question.
he's been and so on and so forth. But the point is to wake up, and Justin Verlander just joined an exclusive list of pitchers, major league pitchers that have had three or more no hitters.
Okay.
And
Obviously, we know who number one is, which is almost unbelievable that it was seven.
that's right. And I think we're old enough to remember probably at least five of the seven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How dominant Nolan Ryan was. So, like this list, when I saw that, I knew he had seven, but I actually, in my mind, was thinking back about how dominant Nolan Ryan was. Now, from a all-time victory and career win-loss percentage, that type of thing doesn't translate.
Because he played on some crappy teams.
Yeah,
that's
but when
why.
Nolan Ryan was on, he was unhittable,
Yeah.
right? So obviously he leads the pack with seven, and nobody is touching that record.
Right.
Nobody.
You know, I mean, as close behind as you can get is one Sandy Koufax, who had a pretty good career.
That's right. And Sandy had four.
Yeah.
And when Sandy Koufax was on, he is, God, I mean, for that stretch of period of time that he had, he might have been, that stretch of period with Sandy Koufax, I mean, we were too young, actually, to appreciate Sandy Koufax.
Absolutely.
Late, mid-60s, late 60s type of thing when
Yep.
he was in his prime. But from a historical perspective and talking to our father and the generation before us who could appreciate that, without question, Sandy Koufax was just unhittable for probably a 5-year stretch there. It
Yeah,
was just
and he
insane.
didn't, you know, that he's had a tough stretch in his first couple of seasons, but you're right. As far as dominating for the last 5, 6 seasons, oh my goodness,
Right?
lights out, lights out.
And then next was the three club here, which is very exclusive. So the fact that Justin Verlander just made that, and I actually saw Justin Verlander's interview after the game last night, and he said, "I'd be lying if I didn't know my baseball history and know that 3+ no hitters was very exclusive territory." And it's ironic that he now has two no hitters against the Toronto Blue Jays, and both are up in Toronto,
Right.
which is kind of an odd feat, if you will.
Yeah.
But you got to tip your hat to Justin Verlander. He was very dominant yesterday. So
Not that he needed another no hitter to go to the Hall of Fame, and not that he needed a no hitter to win the Cy Young this year, because he's got that locked up in the
I
bag.
think so. He's
In
17
today's day and age,
5.
right? But in today's day and age, with these ERAs, you know, if you're doing a 4.5 ERA, you're considered good.
Yeah,
He's under 3.
sure.
He's awesome.
He's
He's awesome.
fantastic, actually. So rounding out the exclusive list here, Cy Young,
All right.
3.
Yep.
Who else we got here? Bob Feller,
Yep.
which is not a surprising name to have on the list because
No.
dominated as he was considered one of the hardest throwers even back in the day. He's got 3.
And I'm not sure if he didn't miss time for World War II.
He
He
most
could have had
certainly
5.
did. He
you know.
most certainly did. So, we tip our hat to Bob Feller for his service during World War II.
Yep.
And then rounding out the list is a name I never heard of, you never heard of, but I'm sure some audience members who are real baseball historians Yeah, a little Larry Corcoran back in 1880 to 84. Larry tossed three, but we were just joking before the show. It's only, what, 15 years after the Civil War, or, within a couple decades. So
Yep.
then Abner Doubleday, and that's
Union soldier.
right, and the wool uniforms and stuff like that. But that's the list. So, all kidding aside, Justin Verlander, that is great stuff, man, getting his third no-hitter. And he was dominant yesterday.
No question.
He was absolutely dominant. And like any other no-hitter, there always seems to be one or two plays that an infielder or an outfielder would make a killer catch. And, there were some precarious moments during the game. But at the end of the day, after 9 innings, and you see 0-0-0 up on that scoreboard, that is a great feat. So we congratulate Justin Verlander. And to your point, I'd be surprised if he doesn't win the Cy Young for the A's.
I don't even know who's even in contention in the National League or the American League that could even.
But if you look at stats and so on, right? So Domingo Germán, who we've talked about, is he going to win the Cy Young? We said that last week. He's not going to win the Cy Young. However, the kid is 17-3.
I know.
So when you look at
not with a 4.5 ERA.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. So the point is, Justin Verlander, I think we're safe to say, is probably a shoo-in for the American League Cy Young.
Yep. But awesome feat.
Right.
And like I said, next stop Cooperstown for him, and he's not done. He's we were kind of writing him off like this is his Cy Young winning season, and then he retires.
Well, who wouldn't want to be Justin Verlander throwing his third no-hitter coming home to Kate Upton from the road trip?
He gets the Cy Young award for that alone.
How good does he have it? So,
well done.
Just saying.
All right.
But yesterday was a great day. So I actually one of my brothers came over. And the Yanks were losing yesterday 4-0 into the seventh, eighth inning.
Yep.
And we just happened to sit down and turn the game back on. But what a great finish for the Yankees yesterday, right? So they're down 4-0, and I couldn't have been happier, right? So it goes to the ninth inning. They cut the lead to 4-3 in the eighth inning, and Gardner leads off, and he actually hit a bomb. He had a tough day at the plate prior. Ties it up 4-4. But this is a good feel-good story, and this is what the Yankees have been about all year. They just won their 90th game.
Yes, they did.
And the other thing about the Yankee season is there's an unfortunate record that they just hit 2 days prior. 36 guys on the disabled list. So Urshela was put on it, right?
Right.
And that's a major league record for having that amount of players. And the fact that the Yankees, we've been talking about it all year long, how everybody has stepped up, right? So they call up a kid, Mike Ford, who's been up for 2 or 3 months, back and forth, burly first baseman type of thing.
Got off to a very slow start.
Most certainly did, but he's starting to heat up. He just hit his 10th home run. But the point is, I felt so good about a kid like this to come in the ninth inning. Gardner ties it up. And Mike Ford then hits a home run to win the game.
Pinch hit home run.
Pinch hit home run.
Yep.
Now, is he going to be on the postseason roster? Chances are probably not.
Well,
if White stays healthy or Scheller comes back healthy.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Steve, because you know what? There's a lot of things that are happening. Like Stanton is probably coming back. Encarnacion he's not far from coming back.
He's on Scranton. He's going to be back.
But it's a shame. With the year like Maben's had and Talkman's had and Ford is now having
Contributing.
and
correct.
Urshela. I mean,
Right.
who's going to get left off that roster? And who I think is going to be one of the odd men out is Brett Gardner. I mean, as big a home run as he hit yesterday, I can't see him in the postseason sitting down guys that are hitting. Talkman's hitting 290. I know he's a spark plug or whatever. He's fiery, but he could be the odd guy out.
Well, I'll disagree with that. I don't foresee any circumstance that Gardner wouldn't at least be on the roster. He's still fast. There's still intangibles.
I'm not
with
saying
him.
he's not going to be on the roster because they expand the rosters anyway.
Right, they just did September 1st, and Clint Frazier obviously has paid his penance then the minor leagues since his stupid thing with the media up in Boston, wherever it was. And but the point is, the Yankees have a surplus of talent. Everybody's been contributing, but to your point, come postseason roster, there's going to be some guys that have contributed all year that are going to get squeezed out.
And the only reason I say that is because, listen, in the postseason last year, they sat Gardner down. Anyway, even in he didn't start a couple of games. So it is a crowded field. It's a good problem to have for Aaron Boone. But he's been pushing all the right buttons, so I don't expect him to push any wrong buttons here. But it's going to actually be good. But let's move on to the other New York team, the Mets. They've been kind of struggling, and like you said, Alonso hit his 43rd. And I know you're
I'm still pushing
hell
for
bent on
50.
for 50. I got it.
7 more to go on September 2nd.
26 more games,
I'll
7
take-
home runs.
I'll take my chances with that.
All right. But they look like they're going to be the odd man out of this thing. I just don't think they have enough firepower. Guys like McNeil and Conforto are kind of cooling off a little bit, and that's gonna come into play.
I'll stick to my prediction. I said this a couple weeks ago. No, don't get me wrong. We commended them. We patted them on the back that they had that stretch. They won, 15 out of 17, something along those lines. They got
Right.
back into contention. However, the schedule is not in their favor, right? And we had talked about the buzzsaw teams that they had played in the last couple weeks, and now they've kind of fallen back to earth. They're still in contention, but they're 4 games behind the second place wild card. Now they have to go to play Washington in Washington.
Starting today.
And I also saw this morning, I think they have probably the hardest schedule to finish the season because I think they're playing nothing but playoff contending teams. So we'll see, but I'm going to stick to my guns and say they're going to be the odd man out, okay, in the National League. So let's hope that they finish strong, even if they don't make it. The Mets do have young talent, and there's a lot of fine-tuning to do. So you got to be happy with an Alonso, going to
No
be a
question
staple
about it.
there. The pitching staff is still the pitching staff, right? Their bullpen has always been an issue all year. They have young talent, as I just said. So, but they're going to have to make some fine-tuned moves to
But
be
I just wanted to bring this
playoff
up.
bound next year.
Like I said, what they do in Washington is going to come into play. They got this series starting today. And how about these numbers this guy Rendon has put up? And, he's got to be the National League MVP, no question. I mean, he's got 111 runs batted in already.
He's a kid that not a lot of people know about.
No, nobody
he's
knows
really, he's played well, obviously. So that's a name that we'll have to follow going forward. So we always talk about the Yeliches and Bellingers and Chris Bryant's of the world and so on. But this Anthony Rendon, to your point, he's got 111 RBIs on September 2nd.
Oh, he's the MVP in the National League. I don't think there's any question. And this other kid, you and I just talked about it before, this kid Juan Soto,
Yeah.
20 years old, 3rd most home runs before his 21st birthday in Major League Baseball history, behind Mel Ott and Tony C., whose career obviously was cut short.
For our fans, Tony Conigliaro, Boston Red Sox, late 60s, got off to a great start in his career. Tony Conigliaro is one of the unfortunate souls in Major League Baseball where he took one literally right in his face.
Right in his eye.
And his career
was over.
He couldn't recover from that.
He came back, but he was never the same. But
But
that's pretty good company.
But I'm not diminishing Juan Soto's ability here, being the 3rd with the most homers at this age. But we've talked about it all year. It's been a juiced year. So I just, not that I want to put an asterisk on him, but I also just wanted to denote, okay, it's a different era, it's a different time, it's a different
I
ball.
concede that, but he's still hitting.
I just wanted to make that point.
But he's still hitting 290.
I'm
and
not
he's got
diminishing
90,
it.
or close to 90 RBIs. So,
I'm
But
not
that's a-
diminishing it. And
that's
I
a-
don't want to put him also in McGuire Sosa territory in '98, where it was a complete joke that these two clowns.
oh, no reason to
We're
put him
hitting.
in that
My only
poison
point is the
category.
juiced ball thing and the steroids, and so there's always extenuating circumstances around certain guys when they hit it.
Okay.
You can throw out like Brady Anderson back in the day, 20 years ago, hit 50. Really, Brady Anderson? Okay.
Or Todd Hundley hitting 41. I mean,
Right.
I get it. But
Aaron Boone's brother, Brett Boone, who was a great Major League Baseball player. But don't tell me Brett Boone, as a second baseman who was hitting 40-plus home runs, wasn't tainted, so to speak.
all right.
That's the only denote I wanted to make.
The point I was trying to make was that the Nationals, I think, still have enough talent that the Mets can't overcome. You know,
I agree.
aside from if the Mets go in and sweep them, you know, on the road, which I don't see that
I
happening
don't see
at
it
all.
happening either, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. But
But we're getting down to crunch time in Major League Baseball.
and at
so-
the end of the day, like we said, at least I did a couple weeks ago, I don't see the Mets making the wild card. I just see them falling back to earth. But once again, we'll give them credit for not tanking this season and being competitive and playing hard.
Like we talked about, I think it saved Callaway's job that they even made a run here. Because if they were 10 games under 500, his job was going to be history.
Right. I see Callaway coming back.
I see him coming back too. So listen, let's move on and let's bring up NCAA football. And this segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking Incorporated, loyal supporter of our show. And you know, it was kind of opening day. There was a game or two, you know, early on, but this was when the big guys played, right? Alabama didn't disappoint, but who had the biggest showing out of all?
The next Alabama quarterback.
Had to be, right? Jalen Hurts so good.
And we had talked about it a couple weeks ago about the transfers in college football and the prominent quarterbacks and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And Jalen Hurts, obviously, I think would be the most prominent, being, you know, his Alabama pedigree.
Right, 26-3 as a starting quarterback and lost his job. I mean,
Well,
unbelievable.
So he goes to Oklahoma and has counts of 6 touchdowns yesterday
Unbelievable day.
and had a great day. And
20 for 23, you know, and 250, 300, and he ran for 180. I mean, amazing.
so we tip our hat to him. I would say the next most impressive was Justin Fields, who was a Georgia quarterback, transferred out. Justin Fields was the #1 recruit a couple of years ago in the country.
Yep.
Signs with Georgia. Jake Fromm is entrenched there, and they had a quarterback battle, and Fromm held him off, and Fields saw the writing on the wall. And listen, so now that Haskins graduated, there was a slot at Ohio State. He
Couldn't
didn't-
be happier for Ryan Day, by
But
the
he
way.
didn't disappoint, and I tell you what, he looked actually pretty good.
He did.
Throwing the ball and running the ball. He's a special talent, I think. Watch out for Justin Fields in Ohio State,
Yeah.
right?
Clemson won, and, you know.
Yeah, Clemson kicked the crap out of the rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, which was no surprise. The running back, Etienne, had a great day. I think he had over 200 yards rushing.
He did.
Trevor Lawrence, our boy that we've always touted, had a little tough day. Had a couple interceptions, but he'll rebound.
Yeah.
What other games were there? Auburn. So Bo Nix. So for some of our listeners who go back to our age, his father was Patrick Nix, who was a quarterback at Auburn.
Yeah.
So this kid, Bo Nix, is a true freshman. He's replacing Jarrett Stidham, who is now on the New England Patriots, who seems to maybe be entrenched as Brady's heir apparent. We'll
Yep.
see, because he's
Looks
had a
that way.
good
Looks that way.
preseason. But my point on Bo Nix is Auburn played Oregon against Justin Herbert, who is considered probably a top 5 pick, if not number 1.
He certainly would have been a top 10 pick last year if
No
he had
question.
come out, and I liked him then.
So this kid, Bo Nix, true freshman, right? Struggles all game for the most part as a freshman you would expect on the national stage in your first game, but hits the game-winning touchdown to propel Auburn to a thrilling victory over Auburn.
Yeah, so there were no real
Over
shockers. Like I said, a lot of people, and myself included, are looking at Georgia to be, finally maybe stepping up. Again, they got to play a brutal schedule. They play some of the toughest teams in the country, so we're going to find out. But
we are, but Georgia, don't discount. I think Georgia is really going to be in the mix this year. I know we tout Clemson, Alabama, and rightfully so, but we're telling you right now on September 2nd, Georgia is going to be a very good football team this year. Kirby Smart, this is his probably 3rd year now since leaving Alabama. So watch out for the Bulldogs. And tonight, on Labor Day night, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish take on Louisville, so they open their season.
Book is still there, right?
Ian Book is back as quarterback.
Okay.
I don't foresee the Irish making the playoffs this year. I think they'll have a good year. They're playing a tough schedule. I can see them, maybe a 2-loss team. They're playing the Michigans of the world and so on and so forth. But they open their season tonight. Also, other notable news in college football, USC played Fresno State the other night. Okay, Fresno State. All I know about Fresno State is Trent Dilfer used to go to Fresno State.
Yeah,
right?
they don't have a long history.
And the reason I bring it up, their starting quarterback, J.T. Daniels, who was a freshman last year, sophomore.
Out for the year.
Out for the year. And when you see the play on the highlight, the way his leg got, caught.
Cringeworthy.
Oh, cringeworthy.
Yeah.
So USC takes it on the chin. J.T. Daniels is out for the year. So, but college football's off. Nebraska opened their season. They got an opening victory. They didn't look overly impressive, but I think Scott Frost is going to be a real good coach there, and he's going to get Nebraska back to Nebraska standards. Maybe 2 more years or so.
Maybe.
So,
yeah, he wasn't even happy after their win, so he kind of said this was a terrible offensive performance.
It was. Let's be real. They didn't play, the
Agreed.
1978 Bear Bryant Alabama Crimson Tide with Major Ogilvie.
Yep.
So,
that's good.
but it's the opening of college football, which we love.
And there was no major upsets to speak of, which.
Well, there was. There was actually one major upset. You know who that was? The Tennessee Volunteers lost to Georgia State.
I guess you would consider that.
No, I do consider that. That is absolutely unacceptable to be the University of Tennessee in the SEC and open up and lose to a Georgia State.
But I don't know what's going on in Tennessee. They're just not getting those talent.
They've had a coaching carousel. The new coach, this is now his 2nd year, Jeremy Pruitt. Alabama, ties. He was the defensive coordinator after Kirby Smart left. So he's a good coach. He's a defensive coach, don't get me wrong, but you cannot open the season as the university. I don't care how bad it's been there.
Okay.
Right? I'm going on record saying that is the biggest upset.
And this is a guy, the quarterback, Jared Garantano, was a guy from Bergen Catholic that we used to go see, and he was, certainly a stud in high school. I just haven't seen anything that indicates to me that he's going to take Tennessee to the next level.
I absolutely agree.
So, if that's got to be on Pruitt to say, you didn't see enough films, this guy hasn't done anything for you. But
and then the other one I would just throw out on finishing up our college football wrap here is Florida State loses at home to Boise State. Now, of course, Boise State has been on the scene now for the last 10 years, so on and so forth, right? But come on, you're hosting Boise State in Florida, at Florida State, opening the season, and this Willie Taggart, who we've talked about.
We talked about it last week.
Right. So they had a crappy year last year, and now he goes 0-1 and loses a home game that you really got to expect them to win. And they were up for the most of the part, and then Boise State comes back, and at the end, Boise State wins. Florida State is in disarray, man. I don't know how long this Willie Taggart is really going to last.
I'm not sure he's going to last the season, but even if he does, this is his last season there. They have got to turn this around.
Well, that's my point. Is I don't believe he'll be let go during the season, but I thought
he hasn't shown me much at all.
Yeah, but talking the first weekend of college football,
and we always give a first year coach. We gave Scott Frost a free pass at Nebraska in his first season, but second season you you don't lose to Georgia State at home. I agree with you. That was a major upset. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
anyway,
that's it. So we'll obviously follow it, and then once the conferences start, it's always kind of the first 2 weeks of college football that the powers are playing schools that the reason they're playing them is to get points, and the other school gets a lot of dough to get their ass kicked. Right.
The Louisiana Techs
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff. We get it.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Real quick, what Steve and I wanted to mention, because there's been so much going on that we're going to focus. We're going to do an extra bonus show later on in the week that's going to focus primarily on our NFL preview, which we promised today.
Yeah.
But we wanted to cover this other stuff first and focus primarily and solely on the NFL, and we'll do that Friday, and that should be up before the start of the season on Sunday.
I think today is the big day where the cuts really have to be made. The 53-man rosters really start needing to be fine-tuned, and then there's going to be notable cuts and trades and all this other stuff, which we're seeing. So let's let it filter out, the unsignings and so on and so forth. So I would say by the end of the week, we'll have that bonus show. We'll just talk exclusively on the upcoming NFL season.
Right.
But now that we're talking about it, we've talked about Zeke. It sounds like the talks have intensified. I'm staying firm that he's going to be signed probably by tomorrow, maybe Wednesday.
I think we know that's a done deal. That's
but we predicted it at that. And then the funny thing is the Melvin Gordon, because we talked about it when training camp started, and you brought it up, and we started laughing about it. Oh, Melvin Gordon wants a new contract. Right. So to the Chargers' credit, they're like, all right, you want to seek a trade? Go right ahead.
Yep.
Oh, you want to sit out? Okay, go right ahead. So we'll see how that plays out.
Right? I agree.
So Gordon is nowhere near getting signed, especially by the Chargers.
And when you look at what he had a pretty decent year last year, but in the elite, right? Elliott's done it for 3 or 4 years, and these other guys, he is nowhere near having the right to demand a trade or demand a new contract while he's under his rookie deal. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, maybe somebody trades for him, because that's the only way I think it's going to happen. I think the Chargers, to their credit, took the stance and said, listen, and listen, the Chargers doubled the salary. Their offer was $10 million, okay? Right? Gurley's getting, I think, 15, 16, Bell 14, something along those lines per year.
He's not in that category.
I agree. If I was in the Chargers front office, I'd be like, see you later.
Well, that's what they said.
Who's next? Who else do we got back here? And that type of thing. So we'll see if the Chargers capitulate. I don't think they will. I would say the most likely scenario is somebody trades for him that has some cap room and wants to pay him what they want to pay.
But what are you going to get for him? A second-round pick, maybe? Maybe it's a second and a third, but you're not getting a first-round pick. He's not first-round pick worthy,
But the point is, once again, I commend the Chargers for taking the stance. They offered him $10 million.
Yep,
I think that's more than fair.
And when we talk about this, like I said, he came from Wisconsin, but his ultimate successor has been this Jonathan Taylor, who had an unbelievable game for Wisconsin, Jersey kid.
Yeah.
And we touted him. I said he's going to be one of those finalists for the Heisman Trophy.
I think so, too.
I just wanted to mention that because we were on the Gordon thing. So we're going to move on from the NFL because we're going to cover that extensively later on in the week.
Okay.
But just before we move on from football, we got to tip our hats. We're homies here. Our St. Joe's Green Knights flew out to California, played in the Holiday Bowl against J. Sarah Catholic.
Sarah Catholic.
And, I mean, these are these are big time players here, and they came back with a win.
Let's go, St. Joe's.
Awesome, awesome stuff. And like we talked about it, they got some big games coming up. They're playing the number 3 team in the country in Maryland, St. Francis, who have 5 defensive linemen that are all going to either
D1, big time.
Alabama, Clemson, and
All the big
LSU.
boys, right?
So that's going to be a big test. But high school football is heating up, and it's just as awesome, I think.
All right, so getting back to the St. Joe's trip, I think it's so awesome that they have the ability to fly to California. I think this is the second time they've been out there in the last maybe 5 years. But they arrived probably on a Thursday, this type of thing. Camp Pendleton is out there. So it's not only the game, it's for these kids to go out there and experience some real world experiences. So Camp Pendleton is out there.
Yep.
And I know the team spent the day seeing how, these guys are training, and then have the ability to meet some of the finest people that defend our country.
Yep.
So it's just not the game, it's this life experience that these kids are subjected to, and I think that's awesome. So congratulations to our Green Knights for prevailing, beating a good team. Also, who was out there was Don Bosco. Don Bosco played, I think, St. John Bosco maybe the day before. The Ironman came up short. But it's the same premise of 14s to 18-year-olds flying out to California and experiencing some
Yep.
life stuff. So I think it's great.
And it's just big-time high school
It
football. It's as big as it gets.
It certainly is.
It's so awesome to have it now in the Northeast, like they've had in Texas and Florida and California for years.
Right.
It's just great to see.
Absolutely. So congratulations
Yep.
to the Green Knights for prevailing out there.
And listen, let's move on because the U.S. Open in tennis, and this segment is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Again, longtime sponsor of our show. It's been some great moments in this U.S. Open. It's wide open. We talked about it. I said the girls' side, I think, is more wide open, and now the men's side with Djokovic going down. He had to retire out of his match. Is at
I'm
an
glad
injury.
you brought that one up. I was home yesterday kind of watching this, and he played Stan Wawrinka, and the first set was competitive a bit, and then I just had a feeling Djokovic wasn't right, and I'm not saying I even knew about the shoulder injury, but as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, he loses the first set. This is the number 1 player in the world. He's going to come back strong. All of a sudden, second set, now he's down. Now he's trending that he's going to lose this second set. He loses the second set. Now he's down 2. Okay? So then, this third set, and he's down again. And that's where I kind of questioned, just to myself, and I'm being honest, I'm like, is he going to pack this in and not finish it? My shoulder, my shoulder, my shoulder. And I think he knew he was not going to come back.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I'm throwing it out there that I think he just said, I'm not going to win this, and I'm just going to go with the shoulder thing, and I'm out of here.
But keep in mind, this
I
Wawrinka's
could be wrong.
Wawrinka's
Could be
got-
wrong, but
Well,
that's my feeling.
But Wawrinka, he's not one of these like Kyrgios who acts up and hasn't won anything. Wawrinka's got 3 Grand Slam titles,
I
so
get it.
he's no slouch.
No, I agree.
But this opens the door to the guys that we talked about, right? With obviously Federer and Nadal. I think I'm not sure if they're going to meet in either the finals or the semis, but
But they'll meet.
they'll meet. And how about this Coco? She's Coco Gauff. You got to give her credit. I mean,
Of course you give her credit.
awesome.
It was-
15 years old, and
That's great.
she's kicking ass in doubles with her partner.
That's
But
good.
but what a class act, and we talked about her before. This Naomi Osaka.
Yeah,
What a class move that was.
there's absolutely no doubt.
And she's
So-
got her hands full today, but she's what a great thing that was.
But again, the backstory on this for some of our listeners that are not so fine-tuned into tennis, right? So last year, Osaka plays Serena Williams in the final. Serena Williams goes ballistic because she thinks the judge is biased against her, and she gets these fouls and so on and so forth. And meanwhile, you got a young kid like Osaka sitting there having to endure this, right, because of the star power, well-deserved star power of Serena Williams.
No question.
But the bottom line is she won the U.S. Open last year.
And I told you, that overshadowed
and it
her
was
winning
so
it,
awkward, the post and the trophy
yeah.
presentation. So now she comes back this year as the defending champion. And she's young, too. She's not 15, but she's still a baby. What is she, 21 or something?
Yeah, maybe 22, something like that.
But the point is Coco Gauff, right, who we talked about in Wimbledon, and she's 15 and she comes on the scene. Real nice kid, and obviously I think she'll have a good career going forward. But ironically, she's playing Oksana, and Oksana's kicking the crap out of her, right? So Coco got a little emotional at the end where she kind of welled up, but Oksana was so comforting to her.
Osaka,
I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking of James Bond movies. But the point is, I thought the class that this young girl
I loved it.
demonstrated
loved
to Coco Gauff, and she obviously was an emotional 15-year-old kid. And she's out of the tournament now, but to your point on the doubles, I think that's a great backstory.
I know. I just think it's been a great tournament, and a lot of things, you know. Like I said, I always thought it wasn't as wide open on the men's side as it was on the women's side, and Osaka's got her hands full today. She's playing right now. I don't know how that's going to go,
We'll
but
check it out.
But there's always, you know, there's a couple of names that you just never heard of up on the women's side that show up, and now that you got Halep out and so forth already,
Right.
wide open.
Right.
And listen, I don't see any reason why Serena Williams isn't going to win this whole thing if she's healthy. She rolled her ankle yesterday. If you know, that could be a problem. But
Well, I just checked our little girl, Miss Osaka. She's in big trouble. In fact, she is out.
Oh wow!
She just lost to Bensick.
Yeah.
7-5-6-4.
Yeah.
So the defending number one seed is out.
But that puts it right to what we were saying. It's so wide open on the women's side, any day, any time.
Yeah, so let's not be surprised if Serena Williams goes out in glory, gets this record Grand Slam title, ties Margaret Court or whatever we talked about before.
Yep.
Now that Osaka is out, I'm going to lay money on Serena.
All right. I don't. Like I said, I don't see any reason why she should lose it if she's healthy, because she's.
And Bensick, who she lost to, is the 13th seed. So wide open to your point.
But looking forward to the last week of the U.S. Open. And like I said, Rafael Nadal seems healthy. Federer seems healthy. And I just don't see anybody getting in their way, at least to the finals.
No, I agree. I agree. So.
Okay, so let's just... before we have a couple of notable passings, because we like to bring this up for guys that we admired and from the National Football League.
Oh yeah,
Jim Langer.
Yeah, there's one in particular where we saw about 3 days ago. So for our audience, Jim Langer is a Hall of Fame center for the Miami Dolphins, and he passed away at age 71.
He was the center on the undefeated team.
No question he was, and he was a staple for the Miami Dolphins, bona fide Hall of Famer, and he passed at 71, and we wanted to acknowledge him as a guy that when we were 7 years old, 8 years old, this guy was a rock. We always, I think our standard bearer we always reference when it comes to centers is Mike Webster, is what probably the best in our opinion. But Jim Langer was right up there.
No question about it.
And we wanted to make mention of Jim Langer passing away. Rest in peace.
And he is. You're absolutely right. I was starting to question because I'm sometimes I wonder why some guys are in the Hall of Fame and some guys are not. he's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, it's absolutely the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame.
But
There's
he
no
was
question.
he was absolutely a great player on arguably one of the best teams.
No question.
Um,
So unfortunately, he joins Nick Bonacani, who we talked about,
Yeah.
as two very prominent members
Of that undefeated team.
of the 17-0 Miami Dolphins.
You're absolutely right. And I'm going to give another notable passing shout out. And I know it's off the beaten path, but to me, because I'm considered myself an amateur historian in several different ways, but Jim Lovell. And people might say right off the bat,
Apollo 13, Jim Lovell.
not Jim Lovell.
Please clarify.
But this was the guy who was handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald when he got taken out after the Kennedy assassination, and that opened up the door for the whole conspiracy theory that it was Ruby and the mafia, whatever. I know it was Oswald and Oswald alone, but I won't go into that on this show. But he was 99, enlisted in the Navy, and was at Pearl Harbor in 1941. So
Now,
awesome.
Was he a Dallas police officer?
he was.
Right.
He
So
was.
clarify that, right?
He was. After he got out of the military, he joined the Dallas Police Department and was.
And he happened to be the guy that was handcuffed to Oswald when they were transporting him, and Ruby was hiding in the
That's right.
garage, right?
So it was, I mean, he's in footage that is embedded in American history
Absolutely.
forever. And like I said, he's got more than just that.
He was
on
a great
his
American.
resume.
He was a great American.
And I wanted to bring it up. He was 99
That's great.
years old.
So rest in peace, Jim Lovell.
Yep.
Thank you for your service, and I think that's a great notable passing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So listen, before we sign off, Steve, I'll turn it over to you for our shout outs.
Okay.
Because
So
it's,
our shout outs today are to our daughters. Jim has a daughter, and I have a daughter. And ironically, they were born on the same day, years apart, but their birthdays were September 1st.
Yep.
So yesterday, my daughter Emily turned 16 years old, and I wanted to say happy birthday once again.
and my daughter,
shout it
Nicole, turned, I don't know, women don't usually like to talk about
She
their
turned
age.
29 for the fourth time.
Okay.
Something along
I'll
those
leave it
lines.
at that for you guys can do the math. But
Right.
hard to believe that
And
my
that's my
firstborn is that
goddaughter, Nicole, Jim's daughter.
Huh?
And Emily, my
It's
daughter,
my goddaughter.
is Jim's goddaughter.
Yep.
So we wanted to shout out to our daughters, happy birthday.
Yep.
And we hope you had a great day yesterday.
They did. All right, guys. So listen, we're gonna wrap this show up, but like I said, we're gonna do an NFL preview show before Saturday.
Mhm.
So check for that. Obviously, this show will be up, pronto after finished taping here.
And if you have any comments, any questions, any banter you'd like us to get back to you with, please send an email to sportswithmono@gmail.com. Okay? And also, our final sponsor, of course, is always Di Filippi's Bakery out of Monticello, New York. And we thank Carmela and the crew there. Once again, if you're in the Catskills, it's the finest sweets you're going to find up there. And we also wanted to send a thank you to Carmela, who made immediate contact for us this past week, and we'll see what transpires with that. But we always appreciate our sponsors looking out for us, and
You bet we do.
we'll see where it goes. Okay.
And to all our listeners, listen, you tell a friend and let them tell a friend, and that's how our show is going to become bigger and bigger because we love talking about this kind of stuff, and we love the feedback we've gotten. We love the support of our sponsors, and we're not going anywhere.
We are not going anywhere, folks, but the NFL season will be fast upon us, and like Jim mentioned, we'll do an NFL preview show later in the week prior to the season, and we look forward to seeing you again.
All right, well, thanks for listening to this show, and we'll catch up to you in the next few days.
You got it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.